I think the complexity of bringing in his father is going to create a little bit of friction, not between just the two of them, but possibly between her and Sherlock and her and the father, because you always see how dimensions of and levels of a relationship change and how people act around different people. There's a clique of friends that you hang out with, and then when you're hanging out with another group of people, people's personalities or actions start to change, and I think you'll see that dynamic. And I think that Rob has done a great job of orchestrating that energy and that shift, and it's subtle, and it's important because that always adds a little bit of a dramatics level, an underlayer, an undercurrent of what we're doing. And then we have the procedural aspect, which is always wonderful too, because you don't just get stuck in this soap opera, which I think sometimes can get a little heavy-handed in other shows, but not ours. Everything's quite like dosed and very sort of spiced in the right manner. Their relationship is developed outside of the sober companion situation, and that at this point they're friends and they're partners. And to distinguish the fact that she's going to be there for him as a partner, but not as someone who is going to be working for him and helping him stay clean and sober. And I think that helps develop their relationship in a much deeper manner, especially since they're living in the same place and they're going to be working as well. So I think that as the seasons have progressed, you get to know their relationship more and more. And I think as that deepens, it also creates a really nice connection for the audience, because we get to know them as we read the scripts that Rob sends us, and so does the audience. So that's a really nice thing to have. And I think earlier we talked about how there is human flaws, and specifically that Sherlock's kryptonite is something that is not going to destroy him, but it's something that's weakened him, and that's made him more porous, and therefore something that is more accessible for Watson.
Mm-hmm. So it's not like, and again, speaking about the actual heroin use, it's not like this is a Rubicon that has now been crossed and now everything is different. It's that this has always been something that he's dealt with, and now maybe the pressure of that ratchets up a little bit, but he's still the same Sherlock in some sense.
Yeah, he just has to, deal with it. I mean, yeah, we'll see in the season how that progresses and how that happens. But it's one of the relatable aspects of that storyline. Is that it's something that you have to get on, deal with. It's not like it's not a huge nemesis that is dealt with and then is done with.
Look, the first thing I want to say is what an honour it is for me to share the stage with these astonishing people. So thank you for choosing me. And to say, what a gift, to walk into such a rich and fertile storyline. It's been built up over 3 seasons, and the character they've given you has been built up over 3 seasons. And it's kind of exciting because people think they already know him or what to expect from him. And that's really very exciting. And, and my approach to it, I don't have the problem with the canon, because all of the eccentric men of that century, whether they be explorers or poets, or eccentrics, all came from wealthy families, all of them. They didn't have to work for a living. And it was very valuable that we did have those people, even down to the Darwins and people like that, who could afford to go away and not make a living. So that kind of makes sense. That's where the Morlands are. And so this fellow sits above. He's very, very wealthy. He's very insured in his wealth and in the way he deals with the world. And he's produced this genius child. It's not so uncommon that the genius child is eccentric, It really isn't. But he is a genius. But Morland is also extremely smart, and he has to deal with that. Plus this very smart woman here. It's sort of really exciting. It's been a joy, the explanation so far, and thank you for the question. It's been an absolute joy to work with these guys and with the material that Rob and his writers are coming up with. So that's the way I take it.
To be a part of the directing group the last 3 seasons, so very lucky. And it's wonderful because it's a very different way of looking at what you do and how you do it, and it's just changed my perspective quite a bit. And everyone's been so supportive and wonderful, and it's a lot of work. If I just was on one side of the camera during that time, they'd be great. But Rob has been wonderful in sort of separating the series so that sometimes Belle will come on for more, or, you know, Captain Gregson sort of able to fill in the slots, so I'm not like in traction in the hospital afterwards. Working with a group of people and it's becomes sort of a family environment, you fall back into that very quickly and very, not so much easily, but it's all sort of in the script and in the writing. And once you have that and you actually are in the room and you're working and you're filming it, it just comes to life, you know, because on the page you see where you're going. It's like a map, a direction, and then really it encompasses the entire group of people that you work with. So when you're an actor and you're starting out, as you are, you're quite young obviously, but you know, it's a very interesting process that you go through, because you're at home, you're learning your monologue, you're learning your lines, and then you go out there and you do your audition. But when you actually get the job, you really have to understand that it's a group effort, you know, because you might have everything in, and everyone on the crew and everyone has the script and they know what they're shooting that day, and then Mother Nature takes over and there's a hurricane. So you just have to roll with the punches. So as an individual, you do your job, you show up to work, everything else will fall into place, you know? And the one thing that we learn in this business, and I think in our own lives spiritually, we don't have control completely. You can control what you can, and the rest you have to let it go. So just remember that when you're going through it, because it is a struggle. And if you think it's not going to be, you're going to be fooling yourself. So make sure that you recognize that. And when it happens, you're like, oh, okay, I knew you were going to be there. So you're a guest, and I realize that you're going to be there today at this party.
Both notably are completely estranged from their sons. Do you think that this has helped you at all prepare for your role as Sherlock's father?
I guess the question is, what prepared me for the first one, you know? I'm not estranged from my children, but there was something deep within me that understood what that felt like, you know? Look, a lot of it, Lucy's already, a lot of this comes out of the writing, if you observe the writing, but also, see, it's really important for us as actors and writers to observe life. I mean, I get in trouble for staring at people. Honestly, always have. I'll be sitting in a restaurant with my wife and I'm just tuned into a conversation the other side of the room. She says, stop staring! Oh, why are you looking at that woman? So, what I'm saying to you is these things you get by observing, and I think sometimes you use it by intelligent research. What you don't know, you find out. And certainly when I did Walter Bishop, there were things that I did a lot of reading about all sorts of things before I put my foot into that water. So, you know, fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, we all know it because we're all one or both of those things. I just observe really, really carefully what happens. But the fundamental thing underneath family is there's somewhere, hopefully, is an unconditional love that will surface at the end. I work on that premise, and that's what it is. So that's the answer. Thank you.
The increased representation of Asian Americans in the media without perpetuating really harmful stereotypes about Asian Americans?
That's an excellent question. I think first of all, the idea of doing and action is the most important thing. And I think you talk to people. Like I'll speak to Rob and say, hey, you know, is it cool if we have, you know, if we're gonna have a boyfriend, you know, like, can we make him Asian? And then she's like, sure, let's put Raza Joffrey in. You know what I mean? Like, you have to actually ask the question. And the one thing that I have learned, and I think everyone can take this away with them, is an open mouth. If a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So open your mouth. You know, if somebody says no to you, that's fine. You're gonna hear a no a lot in your life. And that's just what it is. And somebody's gonna say yes sometime. So you always have to ask the question. It doesn't always happen. It's never gonna work out. I'll ask Rob all the time, can we make him Asian? I mean, he's probably like, oh, it's the Asian call we're getting. Or can we make this person ethnic? It's not just Asian, it's just diverse or real or New York, you know? And he'll say yes and no. That's just the way it is. And he's never said, you know, no across the board. He just hasn't. And it's just the way it is. And I'm not saying it falls only on Rob. It's a complicated group because you've got people that, you know, above you and above you and above you and above you, you know, but it starts, as Rob said earlier, it's a kernel, you know, and that's what we have to be, and we have to be a participant, and we have to open our mouths.
Thank you.